Lloyd, President and CEO of the Lloyd Financial Group, and also for the hour, Adam Johnson, Bullseye American Ingenuity Fund Portfolio Manager. Great to have everyone here today.
Let's rock and roll.
Let's rock it. When you look at the economy, but also the stock market.
Well, let's talk about the Big Beautiful Bill 1.0, because that kind of factors a lot into this. The economy wins elections. It matters what's happening in your pocketbook for midterms coming next year. And when you're talking, everyone put it extremely perfect here, so let's wrap it all together. CPI is trending towards 2.5%, GDP is at 4%, real wage growth is finally positive, and what I fully expect next year is actually more wage growth, and I think that's going to finally hit people's pocketbooks. I know it hasn't been great for the worker at home, but the reason being is if you look at the Big Beautiful Bill, bonus depreciation, Cheryl, you were hitting on R&D expenses and bonus depreciation. When you take a look at that, that's going to greatly help every business owner out there. Now, I got a lot of flack on Friday talking about Reagan 2.0. Yeah, I think you guys posted that on YouTube. There's a lot of comments on there about me saying Reagan 2.0. I'm also going to get a lot of flack for saying this. Trickle-down economics works, okay?
I liked Reagan.
Trickle-down economics works, and when you're a business owner, your wealth is tied in the success of the business, not income. Most business owners I know, myself even included, I don't pay myself. I'm trying to grow the business. I'm investing into more software, hiring people, better things for my clients, right? So every business owner is thinking that same exact way. When they have more money in their pocket next year, they're going to be spending that money throughout the economy, not pocketing it themselves. Trickle down works, and that's what we're going to see next year. Real wage growth positive, maybe even trending towards 4% when inflation's at 2.5%.
Let me add.
Just imagine if every state had a Department of Government Efficiency. When I first moved to Kentucky, I actually got involved with politics very quickly. I'm like, why don't we have a Department of Government Efficiency? The federal government did really good start to Department of Government Efficiency. I don't think they went far enough. But instead of taking your money, imagine if every state, and I'm not a wealth redistribution kind of guy or a stimulus check kind of guy, but what if every state was able to give stimulus checks because they actually had a surplus, right? Because they got efficient. I mean, 30 to 50% of service workers rely, or 30 to 50% of their income is on tips alone. I mean, I just took my clients out Friday to a dinner, and here in New York, it's expensive. So every tip's 20 or 30 bucks on just a $100 bill, right? So that adds up extreme amount over time. And talking about overtime specifically, at my Christmas party back at home, one of my family members was like, I can't wait to save 30 or 40% because I make most of my money on overtime, right? I mean, that's just the federal level, though. Imagine if the states did that. Again, how much money people would put in their pockets and spend somewhere else in the economy.
But Adam,
authority that maybe some people don't think he has, and we'll find out whether he does.
Well, there's a lot of other ways around it. I mean, tariffs are just one use of the arm wrestling match. You can do import quotas or export quotas or other trade restrictions. Tariffs was just the use of one item. So there's other kind of ways he can play that if we ever get to that point. But I'm going to go off of Adam Johnson's kind of talk about how tariffs haven't been bad. And that's the fact of the matter because of tariffs being so small relative to the size of the economy. I'm going to throw out the $2 trillion deficit spending. I mean, when tariffs are only 10% of essentially the liquidity of the deficit spending in the economy, of course it's going to continue to inflate asset prices, continue to keep the economy going in a lot of ways. And it comes down to that liquidity factor. We track liquidity every single morning. We talked about credit spreads last week. Credit spreads remain really tight. That liquidity is going to remain strong. But when it comes to the tariffs, I think the actual new bargaining power is going to be gold and silver. I mean, you see a lot of headlines on China and the U.S. on gold and silver and also the rare earth metals. I think that could come to the equation, maybe some tariffs or maybe some import-export quotas on gold and silver, which is going to limit the supply of gold and silver, which is going to increase prices even more as we head into next year.
well, I want to pick up on.
So I'm going to be very clear here. There absolutely is not a bubble, in my opinion, on AI. Now, I'm going to get in trouble here in probably 5 years or 3 years, whenever there is a market correction, because there are going to be stocks like Palantir and NVIDIA that get cut in half maybe eventually. But there are second, third, fourth derivative plays of AI that have not been paid attention to yet, right? So all this wealth and liquidity and money at the top is going to flow through all the different areas, like, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, Google. These stocks have been inflated a lot. All that money can still flow out of those stocks into those second derivatives. So some stocks that we picked up recently is like MELI, which is the Latin America Amazon. It's also playing on currencies and AI down there. That stock is definitely not bubble-ish. So that's down 20% from the top. AV, drone technology and AI. That's another area you can play with defense spending and all the spending of the government.
We own that as well.
Successful? Does anyone disagree?
It does the complete opposite of what you're taught growing up, and that is go take on tons of debt and go to college. It's kind of the opposite way of thinking. It's like, here's some money. I'm going to allow you to watch it grow year upon year. And when you're 18 or 20 years old, maybe that $1,000 is $5,000, or maybe it's $10,000, depending on the growth of the economy, right? And that kind of seeing that side is the opposite way of thinking of, hey, I'm just going to go into debt and not ever pay this off. It's the exact opposite. So I like it a lot because it gives people the mindset that they need to have to be successful in creating wealth over the long term.
No, but our family is talking about gas prices. $20 I filled up the tank in Arizona.
I do want to hit on a point that Caroline made, and that's maybe how the younger generations don't feel like they can get ahead, maybe because of housing or maybe because of the economy. But I actually kind of have the opposite side of thinking as well. There's again that bifurcated kind of way of thinking. It's like, okay, things are too expensive, I can't get ahead. But there seems to be a record almost breaking risk taking going on in the economy with entrepreneurship, and that goes back to the $45 billion SBA number. I mean, there's two. You can complain about it, or you can go out there and try to start a business, or switch jobs and take a risk and try to get ahead. I mean, that was kind of the motivation for me to start my business. Is like, I want to try to go out there and take the risk and live the American dream. And I think that risk taking, especially with people with record levels of debt, credit card debt, student loan debt, whatever it be, a lot of people are thinking, what's the worst that could happen? I can take a risk and fail, or I could keep on living how I am and not get ahead.
You're
There's
100%,
two ways of thinking.
You're 100% correct on.
Going to investigate this fraud. $9 billion is the number right now.
Again, every state should have a Department of Government Efficiency that addresses this. And if they don't, the federal government needs to get involved like they are and actually go into these states and regulate them. I mean, as a financial services company, there's no stone left unturned.
Yep.
When you go through any kind of regulatory audits, whenever you go through opening a business, it was every stone not unturned, made sure that they went into every single detail of even your personal life. So why I don't understand how these people can get away with it. It must be that easy for the access to that money. I mean, I know for me, one of the big questions I get is, Luke, what happens to my money if you die, right? That's usually a very easy question for me to answer, but why do we not care about where our own money is going? I mean, this is billions of dollars at the state level. I know we talk about billions and trillions of dollars at the federal level and kind of throw around these big numbers like it's nothing. When it comes to the state or local governments, billions of dollars matters to your own pocketbook. And the fact that we're now uncovering this, and actually it looks like people on Twitter are becoming their own journalists and actually going to these physical locations, more people need to do this. Get involved.
And that's the thing.
The disparity.
The disparity came from the government getting involved more. That's the big mistake people make here, is everyone was so quick to blame capitalism and the billionaires. If you look really throughout history and all the data, it wasn't until the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, 1971 officially getting off the gold standard, all of these precedents continue to stack with each other. So I like using history and data because I'll go back to after the Civil War when the income tax first came out. Do you know how many people paid an income tax when it first came out? 3%. It was only meant to pay for the damage that was done, and only a small amount of people were meant to pay it. Now what's happening? Half of our income, if you're middle class America, property tax, income tax, sales tax, whatever it be, half your income is going straight to the government. So my point is, why should this scare you?
Yes.
Is in California, is because when it happens in California, it's right close to coming right to you in your home state because it keeps on stacking and stacking.
That was my point, though. Social media, because they all seem to have an opinion.
Okay, can you really regulate it? It's the big question. I mean, is putting a label on it regulating it? No. I mean, that's kind of stupid in my opinion, putting like a label or saying that has issues. Everyone knows social media's got issues. And it's more of a parenting issue. Again, this is another question of state involvement, government involvement. Really, the government shouldn't be involved with capitalism really in general, in my opinion. But there are some issues, and specifically economically and from a business side, everyone's constantly comparing themselves to each other on social media. And I know, always seeing people with nicer cars, nicer houses, whatever it be, you're trying to get that to that point. So it's causing a lot of bad decisions of people, but it's also keeping the economy afloat, in my opinion, because it's getting people to spend money they don't have, frankly.
I actually, whatever it is. So I think it's just an additional tool. But yes, I mean, ultimately, parents need to do a better job of standing up and parenting
I
their
feel
children.
like parents nowadays have trouble saying no to their child. I mean, I know my grandparents, my parents would straight up tell me no, or if I did something wrong, would take maybe not their belt, but would take their hand behind. You know what I mean? I think that more of that needs to happen in today's world.
No, it's my generation.
I'd love to see peace, but from an economic standpoint, there's numbers $1 billion a day this war is costing, $800 billion of reconstruction. The stock we just bought, AV focuses on drone technology that America has recently said they're going to invest a lot more money into. So we think you can play this in some areas, not just war, but also just defense spending. Responsibility, too, gives you purpose. And I think really a good way to explain, just because I am a Gen Z, technically I'm running the cutoff, I can kind of talk about it. You know, a lack of purpose, I think. You know, when you have a home, you have purpose. When you maybe have kids get married, you have purpose. When you start a business, you have purpose. Like all of those kind of big
Skin in the
things
game.
give you skin in the game and purpose, right? And I think that's where younger generations are lacking right now, is that sense of purpose. And going on social media and scrolling about it, which I think is maybe one of our segments here in a few minutes, that's causing even worse issues of comparing yourself to others.